Welcome to SomerKnits, episode 54. Welcome back to SomerKnits. This is my tiny little corner of the internet where I share all about my knitting, sometimes spinning, love of fiber arts, and I just am really glad you're here. Whether you are a returning viewer or brand new to my channel, I appreciate you. My goal with having a podcast is really just to form a community, reach out to a broader group of knitters. So just thank you for spending part of your day with me. I don't get to film very often over the summer because my kids are out of school and we end up being very busy. So this episode has a lot to catch up on. And I may seem a little bit rusty. When I go super long between podcasting, it starts to feel awkward again like it did in the beginning. So hopefully I can remember everything I want to say about my various projects and we can keep it smooth. But without further ado, let's dive into finished objects. We're going to see if the ring light reflecting in my glasses drives me crazy, because sometimes it does. But it seemed a little dark over here. It's all about balance, right? So my first finished object is one I really talked about in my last podcast, but I wanted to show it actually finished. And I know I inserted finished object photos when I edited last time because it was so long between filming and editing. But just so I can show it like actually live on the podcast, this is my Traveler Shell by Aimee. I absolutely love this piece. I did travel with it this summer. I had a work conference and I took it with me, and it was perfect because if you've ever been to one of those giant conventions, it's always cold in the classrooms. So the Traveler series by Aimee is all this broken garter. I loved this shell because it's just a drapey cardigan, no buttons. The pockets really make the piece, I think. They give it a really interesting style. And then I liked the loose, wide, short sleeves. They're very practical for where I live. A lot of heavy garments, like her most recent release, which is color work in worsted weight, are too heavy for me to get any use out of here. But this was made with 2 strands of lace weight held together. And so even though it is a fuzzy yarn, and I could not put it on right now because I'm already like sweating, you're gonna see me sweat during this podcast and I apologize, but I can't help it. I've already cranked down the air conditioner and hopefully you can't hear the fans, but all the fans are on in the house. It is hot. I can't put this on right now because I will die, but it is great in my office where the air conditioning tends to run strong half the day and then suddenly not. So I have been taking this to work with me quite often. I finished it during the DRK March to May knit along. This was my entry for this year. And if you are really interested in knowing more about it, go back and check out my last podcast. It was a really fun knit. I mean, I know this seems like a lot, and if you hate purling, this may not be the pattern for you because there is a lot of purling because it is knit flat. But I thought it was 100% worth it. I think it's really cute. I would like to do the Traveler shawl in hand spun if I can get enough spun up for that. But this is my Traveler cardigan, and we're gonna count that as the first finished object since the last time I filmed. I guess I left more space in the frame. I cannot see myself in the camera. I'm just guessing. I think I left more space on this side. So this is my Traveler shell. No, I haven't trimmed the ends from sewing on the pockets because I wanted to wear it for a little while and make sure that I felt like the pockets were exactly where they needed to be. But I think I'm gonna trim them because I think that it is everything I wanted it to be. I love how it looks. I love how it fits. I love the color. The speckles are the Hedgehog Fibers Alpaca Boucle, and the solid is a Knitpicks lace weight that is silk and merino. So the Knitpicks gloss lace and the Hedgehog Fibers Alpaca Boucle are what I held together. That is not what the pattern calls for, but the fiber content was close enough and it achieved proper gauge, and I love it. So that was a real brief overview of the Traveler. My next finished object might be kind of obvious, but it's what I'm wearing. And this is my first, and I say first because I have plans for more, Tolsta tank. I applied to Testknit the Tolsta tank and wasn't chosen. That's fine. But when I applied, I went ahead and ordered this yarn, which is the Knitpicks Cotton. Now, Knitpicks Cotton is currently 70% cotton and 30% linen, I believe. Way back in the day, when I first started knitting garments, the Knitpicks Cotton was 50% cotton, 50% linen. I feel like, and if anyone's got a different opinion, feel free to tell me. I feel like back when it was 50-50, it shed less than it does now that it's 70-30. And I'd love to hear anyone else's opinions on that. But I still love Knitpicks Cotton. I still like the drape of it, how it wears. I will say I feel like it stretches out a little quicker now that it is 70-30 instead of 50-50. I've worn my Tolsta tank like all day office or conference environment twice now. I did not wash it in between. I'm going to wash it after filming this. And I want to show you that it has stretched out under the arms. So real quick, let's go into what I did. So this is the Tolsta tank square neck. I know it doesn't look super square because I gave it a little bit of a scoop. This is the square neck version, but I cast on less than half of the strap stitches that are called for in the pattern. I cast on 10 stitches on each side. And the reason I did that is not only do I have a very short torso, but I have a super short upper bust to shoulder measurement as compared to the majority of the population. So when I knit tank tops or vests, they end up too long in the upper bust to shoulder area, which can make the neckline sit too low. So to combat that, I usually shorten the straps. And if you've been a longtime viewer, you might remember in a similar colorway, I knit the outline tank by Jessie May in Kelborn Woolens Mojave, but a very similar color to this. And I love that top. It's so lightweight. It's so cool in the summer. It's just airy, breezy. I like it as a swimsuit cover up. I like it as just a wear outside with a funky bralette under it on a hot day kind of top. It's amazing. However, if you've been here a while, you might remember that even though I shortened the straps on that pattern, they still stretched out unbelievably on me, to the point that it hung very low. I fixed it, but not too much because I wear that tank very casually. This one, however, I wanted to be able to dress it up or down. I wanted to be able to wear it to the office on those hot days, but maybe with a little sweater, maybe with a blazer. The way I've actually been wearing it the most so far, or styling it, is with a linen shirt open over the top of it, which works really well. So the other modifications I did real quick, and I did try to put notes in my Ravelry. If Ravelry is not accessible to you, just let me know. I'm happy to send you my notes. Because the Tolsta tank is knit bottom up at a rather open gauge, I cast on for the size 4. And instead of doing ribbing, I used the ribbing size needles, but did a provisional cast on and did a folded hem. So I knit for 1 inch, I did a purl row, I knit for another inch, and then I folded it up and knit those together. And then I switched to the body needle and started working in the round up on the body. When I got to the underarms, I actually went down to the size 3, because right now, and even at other weights, because my weight fluctuates quite a lot and has always, my bust is typically a smaller size than my, not necessarily a smaller size, but a different fit than my waist hips. Like, my bust is still larger than my waist. However, with the same amount of ease, things look too loose at the top, but fit right around my waist and hips. So I didn't want to tuck this in. I wanted it to hang over the top of pants and trousers. So I wanted a certain amount of length on it. And I will insert, hopefully I have been, pictures, because I did wear this a few times already. Was it only twice or was it 3 times? I've worn it a few times already. Anyway, pictures should have gone in or should be going in. Anyway, I decreased to the size 3 and worked the size 3 instructions for the top, which fits perfectly. I love the fit at the top. I know that I don't have super broad shoulders. Like, my neck opening is not very wide, and my short upper bust to shoulder measurement means that a lot of square neck things or boat neck things can end up too wide. Like, I struggle to find bras that strap shorten enough. Like, I can't wear any fixed strap bralettes because they're always too long. Every time I buy a dress with straps, if they don't adjust, I take them to my grandma's house and I have almost 2 inches usually of fabric taken out of the straps, sometimes more, in order for things to fit right. So I feel like the Tolsta tank pattern really allows for those modifications. Now, if you need modifications the other direction, she has bust darts included and everything, and I think that that is an excellent option. However, I needed it to get smaller at the top, so I did the size 4 body, decreased to the size 3 as soon as I did the split at the underarms, and worked the size 3 instructions, except for when I picked up around to do the straps and armhole opening, and I did only 10 stitches cast on at the top for the straps. And while I still think 10 stitches was the right call, it has definitely stretched out already. Now, I am going to wash this in the washing machine and put it in the dryer, because I know that it'll shrink back up nicely. I know the cotton, kind of how it behaves. And I know that when I put it back on, the weight of it is going to stretch it back out into the right fit. So I'm not worried about over shrinking it. I think that it will be just fine. Side note, even if I say I put something in the dryer, I dry everything on delicate or low. So it's not going to be on high heat, and I won't have it in with anything abrasive. I will probably leave it in a mesh delicates bag, even in the dryer. And if you ever do put like a cotton in the dryer and you feel like it shrunk up too much for you, if you have a steamer, you can totally steam block it back out and it's usually fine. Not the same for wool, but definitely for the cotton linen that I have used so far, and I've used a variety of different brands, but especially the cotton. I like the color range. I like how it feels in my hands. It doesn't hurt my hands. It's not stiff, and I like how it wears. So I've used the cotton a number of times. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say about the Tolsta tank. I did use the needles called for in the pattern. So got gauged with that, and that was fine. Oh, the lace. I added 3 eyelet rows at the top, which really was over the course of 7 rows. So on the right side, I did my yarn over, knit 2 together. On the wrong side, I purled back, and then I just moved it over 1 by doing the knit 2 together first, and then the yarn over, and then so on and so forth. And then 1 more plain stockinette row before moving on to the rib. And the ribbing needles were the same as, like I said, the folded hem needles. I didn't want to do a folded hem at the top. I really just wanted that nice clean edge at the bottom. I think the ribbing looks fine at the top and kind of pulls it in right so that it hangs nicely. I wanted the lace to be high up enough that it was still very bra friendly, because I didn't want to have to worry too much about what I wore under it. I may have gone 1 or 2 extra rounds on the straps also, because I did want them to be wide enough for the bras I usually wear. I think I went 2 extra rounds maybe. So my armhole strap area is a tiny bit thicker than in the actual pattern. But I prefer it this way. Like I said, I love the fit. If washing it and putting it in the dryer does not fix the stretch out under the arms, then on the back side, I'm going to thread in sewing elastic, just tiny like that you get on a spool, the little stretchy sewing elastic. And I'm just going to put it through the purl bumps on the back side and kind of cinch it up a little bit to where it was to start with after blocking, before it stretched out. And I think that that'll keep it in just fine. So, and yes, I realize that I want it a little bit tighter to my armpits than some people do. That again has to do with that short torso, short upper bust to shoulder measurement, and for the sides of my bra not to show, I do need things just a little bit higher. I don't want it digging into my armpit, but I do need it to be elevated a little bit more than some people do. For reference, I'm 5'1", 5'1.5". My daughter is now 5'1", and I'm not willing to let her be as tall as me yet, because I do technically still have that ½ inch on her, but it's coming, and I'm not ready for it. Anyway, that is the first thing I finished on our summer vacation, our big summer road trip. And it is my Tolsta tank, and I love it. And if you have any questions about it, please leave them in the comments, and I am happy to answer anything you want to know about the Tolsta tank. More about my future Tolsta plans in the acquisitions section, which I don't always do anymore because I really try not to acquire yarn except when we're traveling. And since we have done our big summer trip, I do have a couple of acquisitions. It's not a lot, just a tiny bit. Costume change. My second finished object, which actually probably should have been first, because it actually was the first thing I finished on my road trip and totally forgot. This is the Magpie tendency that I had been planning to make for the last 2 years, I think. This was this yarn is hand dyed by Southern Skeins, and it came in a subscription box, and I probably showed it on the podcast whatever month it came, and I immediately wanted it to be a Magpie tendency. I love this pattern because it's a way to make your yardage go further. It's a way to use some of that precious hand-dyed single skeins and put them together to make a nice wearable piece. This is my third Magpie tendency. I do use the needle size called for in the pattern, except on the arms, I go up 1 needle size to, I believe the body is knit on a 10. The I-cords are done on a 9. I do the sleeves, other than the I-cord bind off, on a 10.5 because the pattern has the sleeves come in very cinched. So if you want extra space in the bicep, I would recommend going up a needle size. Magpie Tendency is a pattern by Skeinanigans. Now, I searched for her on Instagram because I wanted to tag her in the finished object photos, and I no longer see her Instagram. So I do not know if she is just no longer active. I have not checked to see if the pattern can still be purchased on Ravelry. That is where I purchased it to begin with. I hope it can because I really like this pattern. The original pattern does call for a cropped design, and I'm going to insert some finished object photos, but I can't remember how far down my torso you can see in the frame. I made this top such that I tried first alternating skeins because the two skeins of hand-dyed yarn that I had for the main color were very, very different. They came in the same package, same day, same dyer, very different colorways, even though it's the same colorway. And that can happen with hand-dyed yarn, and that's fine. It's part of what makes hand-dyed yarn special and unique, that it may not always be repeatable. But I liked the colorway for one skein much better than the other one. So I made, alternating skeins does not work well at this open gauge with this construction. It just wasn't working, and I did not like it. So I ripped back and went back to just using one skein at a time. I did the saddle shoulders and the I-cord neckline in the coordinating mini, which is a beautiful purple. Now, because I had two of the sock sets, I did have two of the minis. I need to weigh the leftover yarn and see if I could have done it with one mini, but I want to say the way I ended up breaking it out, I really was going to need that second mini. So I knit the main part of the body in one colorway, and then I did a strip, one pattern repeat basically, in the purple coordinating mini, and then I added the rest of the length I wanted for the body in the other main color, which definitely highlights more of the bright neon highlighter greeny yellows and less of the aqua blues. The purples are still about the same in both skeins, but it's definitely the difference in the bright greens versus the aqua blues. So I wanted more of the aqua blues near my face. The other colorway is beautiful, I just didn't want it as close to my face. So using that purple band as the eyeline break, which hits close-ish to my waist, and then adding that other color, it looks very purposeful, and it is. And then the I-cord bind off is in the coordinating mini again, so the purple again at the bottom. Then you go back and do the sleeves, also in the coordinating purple. The purple has kind of a kettle dyed vibe to it, so there are places where it's darker, places where it's a little bit lighter, but overall very cohesive. And then you have the fun of the variegated yarns. I love this pattern for variegated yarns because since it's such an open gauge, the pooling doesn't feel as odd as it can in some smaller gauge projects where there's significant pooling. So I don't usually worry too much about pooling in these particular garments. The pattern is meant to be cropped, and had I wanted the cropped length, I could have gotten away with just doing the one skein plus the extra rounds in the coordinating mini. So I would have still taken two minis, and then the I-cord bind off, and I probably would have gotten exactly the length the pattern wanted me to. I wanted to wear it with jeans and shorts and just basically out over pants. I'm not a big tucker. I don't layer super often in the summertime because it's just too hot here. Oh, it's so hot. I don't know that I can wear this much longer. even though it is a super open gauge, this is wool, whereas the tank top I had on was cotton and linen, and there's a huge difference in how they feel in the heat. However, I love wearing it places where there's air conditioning, and usually I wear a cami under it, and I'm not right now, but that's okay. I feel like the yarn filled in enough with blocking, like puffed up enough that it's not so open. I couldn't get away with just wearing a bra underneath, especially if it's a super casual environment. But I will insert the pictures where I wore it to the conference I was at with some cute pants, and basically just wore I think it was a white cami underneath, white, cream, flesh colored, one of those. Nothing like brightly colored or anything odd like that. I do wear my Magpie tendencies in the transitional seasons over dresses. So my first one is much shorter than this one, is also one size down. I think I did size D this time, and previously I'd done size C. And when I knit it for my daughter, I did size A, but also went down in needle size, because when I knit hers, she was 11, and now, like in the last year, she has shot up so much that is definitely the cropped length the pattern intended, even though I made it longer so that she could wear it for longer. I'm thinking I may have to block that sucker out a little bit, like block it a bit longer, block the sleeves out a little bit, just so she can wear it a bit longer. But I just want to say it's a well-written pattern. It's very versatile. I really like it. I will probably continue to make these. And I feel really good about the fact that, like, I hoarded this yarn for a specific purpose, and I finally reached for it and gave it that purpose, like made it into that thing. I didn't just sit there looking at it saying, one day it's going to be that thing. I finally just did it, picked it up and did it. And I have resisted taking on too many test knits this summer. Like, there are a bunch of test calls out right now or coming out soon that look very appealing. And I fully intend to apply for a few test knits that are coming up, but I'm trying to resist those impulse applications. At the beginning of summer, I did actually overcommit, was starting to feel very stressed about that. And even though it was really, really hard for me because I am a people pleaser, I had to message one of the designers and say, after looking more carefully at this pattern, I don't think I can do the test knit in the time allowed without causing myself significant stress. I just don't think it's doable. It won't be a good experience for me. It won't be the feedback that you need. And so the designer was very gracious, and I very much appreciate her. And I think her design is coming out in the next week or two, and I hope it does really well. But I just could not, I could not take that on at the time because I had accidentally, forgetting I'd applied for another test knit, applied and gotten accepted to 2 test knits on the same day. The other one I had applied for a couple weeks prior and not heard anything, not thought I was accepted, and then lo and behold, I get 2 emails the same day saying, hey, and they were the exact same time frame, same due date, everything. So it just wasn't gonna work. But that allowed room for joyful knitting, lots of knitting for the love of it. And I had cast this on Memorial Day weekend after I finished the, I finished a hat I didn't even grab for my finished objects because I did the Traveler Hat Challenge. But I can run and grab that in a little bit when I change shirts again because this is too hot. I kind of wonder what this top would be like in a nice linen, or if the linen would be too heavy and would really drag that open gauge too much. I think it might work in something thin like the Kelborn Woolens Mojave. That's listed as a DK, but it doesn't feel like a DK in hand to me. It feels much more like a fingering, knits up a lot like a fingering. I think it says DK, it might say sport, but it really knits up like a fingering. Or I wonder if Lana would work. I don't know. Anyway, don't listen to me. This is the Magpie tendency and I love it. And if you've never checked out that pattern, I highly encourage you to do so because it's one I've knit over and over and I don't always repeat patterns. Like I have to really like either the construction or the way it fits or something about it to re-knit a pattern over and over again. Costume change. Random aside. If you have fancy glassware and you feel like you never have a reason to use your fancy glassware, you should just use it anyway. Maybe you need an iced coffee in the middle of a weekday when nobody else is home. Fancy glassware. So I couldn't find the hat. I think that it may have already migrated its way up into the gifting box. So I'll just pop a picture in. I know I put pictures at the end of the last podcast episode when I edited, so you may have already seen it, but this is the traveler hat. It was the DRK Spring Long Weekend Challenge project. I did the worsted weight version and it actually knit up very, very quickly. It's not my favorite hat look for myself personally, but it seems like a good gifting one. I think I did the child's or child's large or something. It still went on my head just fine. So it must be child large, adult small, somewhere in there. Just based on the yardage I had, that's what I went with. So anyway, there's an extra gift, maybe for Christmas, already done. Or we may start giving them to the kids' friends again as birthday gifts. So we'll see. But it's beautiful blue that had been sitting in my stash for ages. And by ages, I mean since like 2006. Don't have the tag, don't know where it is, but beautiful yarn. Really love the color. That's all I have to say about that one. So let's move on to an almost finished object. Like so close to finished. The problem is it's so hot, I don't even want to touch it. I'm going to touch it just for you, just so I can hold it up. But it is so hot, I don't want it on my lap to finish working on. So I mentioned those test knits that I applied for. Ooh, the fuzzies, they're already flying. This is the Feather Cardigan by the Knit Purl Girl. It is a chunky gauge cardigan knit with 3 strands of lace weight or 1 strand of lightweight, like super airy, bulky yarn. I did the 3 strands of lace weight. I did entirely stash diving for this, although if you follow me on Instagram, you may know that I ran out of yarn in one of the colors with part of one sleeve left to go, like not much at all. I needed, maybe it was more like half a sleeve. I needed 6 grams, I think, 10 grams. I'm trying to remember. I have all these notes. Did I remember to bring them right now? No. But I weighed the yarn I had, finished one sleeve, weighed it again, so I knew exactly how much a whole sleeve used, and I knew how much was left, and I calculated what I needed in order to finish the second sleeve, put a call out on Instagram and Ravelry, and my call was answered, and I offered to pay for it, to pay for shipping, but I was gifted the yarn to finish it, and the yarn I ran out of was the Knitpicks Aloft. So I had 3 colors I used to make this beautiful fabric. One, and I'll put a picture in of the individual colorways with the work in progress so you can see what they were. The Knitpicks Aloft was in a colorway they don't make anymore from their painted line called Toronto, and it was a pale kind of icy blue. And then the darker, more turquoisey mohair that I have in here is the Lana Silk Hair. It's a deep turquoise color. I wonder if I'd have to find the leftover bits. And then the third strand in my cardigan is actually a strand of Malibrigo Baby lace, which I think is their baby merino. It's single ply, it's super lightweight, and I had 2 skeins of that, so I had 800 yards that had been sitting in my stash for as long as I can remember. Once again, we're gonna harken back to that super stash acquisition phase I had. We're gonna say maybe that yarn had been around since 2007, maybe 8, but somewhere in there. And it was a green color that I no longer like reach for on its own. However, pairing that green color with the deep turquoise and the icy grayish blue really made a beautiful, interesting fabric. So I'm not sure how well the focus is on this, but hopefully you can see how much depth the color here has due to how those yarns marled and played together. And I will take B-roll if needed and add that. It's a fairly simple construction. It is bottom up. It is large needles because it's at a super chunky gauge. It knit up really fast. There are some faux seams in there to help reinforce the garment because it is that chunky open gauge on that lace weight yarn. So the faux seams actually help to give it structure. And there's faux seams under the arm, down both sides. So there is a little bit of sewing to do at the end. The pattern guides you through it. It's super simple. It's not like trying to sew pieces together because it's all already one piece. It's a faux seam. And it goes all the way through the cuffs and down through the hem, like I said, just to add structure and stability to the piece. I actually think that was a really well thought out detail. The shoulder detail here is very nice. I really enjoyed making this piece. I'm not sure what else to say about it. I love the folded collar. It gives it such a nice, such a nice fit. I don't want to put it on, it's so hot. And did I say almost finished? That's because I haven't finished sewing the buttons. This is due tomorrow, so I'm gonna have to suck it up and sit in front of a fan and sew these buttons on. I got 3 on earlier. They are a little bit small, and I know I put up an Instagram story about this. They're a little bit small for the size of the button band. However, there are 9 buttons on here. So bigger buttons feel like you're overwhelming the vertical space. Also, I don't really intend to wear this cardigan buttoned. I don't wear very many of my cardigans buttoned. One of the few that I do is the Chantilly cardigan by Laura Penrose, and I wear it buttoned because I love that big statement collar, and mine is extra big compared to hers. The way it lays when the cardigan is buttoned. But for the most part, cardigans for me are layering pieces. They are throw-on pieces. I contemplated not putting buttons on this at all. However, I do think these dark blue, they're dark, almost navy blue buttons with the painted flowers on them are really pretty. All 9 buttons together weigh exactly 3 grams. So you can tell they're very lightweight. They're not going to add weight to the garment. And I had some pretty antique glass buttons that would have looked nice. I had some metal painted buttons with moons and mountains on them that would have been gorgeous with this colorway. However, both of those would have added weight to the garment. And since I intend to wear it open most of the time, I don't want one side dragging more than the other. So I'm gonna go with these little tiny wooden buttons for now and see how I feel about it as I go. The thing I keep reminding myself about button choices is the choice isn't permanent. I can take those buttons off and change them later. So time to stop agonizing about it and just get them on. I did, however, drop one button down the side of this chair earlier, which means I either have to reach down into the icky depths of the chair. Who knows what's in there? I have kids, remember? Kids are gross. Or I do have more of these buttons than I need. Grab another one from upstairs and wait and have my husband pull the back off the chair when he gets home so that then I can get, I saw there's some stitch markers down there too when I shined a light down there, but I couldn't reach them. So, buttons still to do. Feather Cardigan by Sohpie, the Knit Purl girl. I don't know if there's a good way to hold it up just because it's so drapey. So drapey. It is fully blocked, totally ready to go. Buttons are the only thing. I'm not sure how I'm going to get finished object photos in this without dying of heat stroke. We'll see. Maybe I'll do them in front of a fan and I'll have like flowy hair just like blowing in my finished object photos, and that'll help with the temperature. I don't know. We'll see. But that is my feather cardigan. I adored making that, and I got 3 balls of aloft out of stash, at least 3 balls of the Lana Gato silk hair. I think I might have broken into the 4th on that one. I'm not sure. It had less yardage per ball than the Knitpicks aloft. And then 2 balls of the Malibrigo lace weight. I do still have a chunk of that Malibrigo lace weight left because it was the highest yardage of everything I had. And I'll just throw that back into my scrap stash, and who knows. But I really just need to trim ends and add buttons, and that will be good to go. Let's see. Do we go with things that have been on the needles longer, or do we go with things closer to being finished? How about things closer to being finished? I would love, whoop, sorry, that noise was the fireplace tools, if you heard it. I would love to finish this tonight because I would love to block it and wear it Friday. Why Friday? Well, let me tell you. Friday, I am going to Fiber Christmas in July, which is the fiber festival held here in Northeast Oklahoma every year. It is always the last weekend in July. It's Fiber Christmas, so it's Christmas in July. It is out at the Creek County Fairgrounds in Kellyville, Oklahoma, and it is Friday and Saturday. And I purchased the yarn for this last year at Fiber Christmas, or the year before. I want to say it was just last year. Regardless, I purchased this yarn at Fiber Christmas. I would love to wear the finished object, if it's not too hot, on Friday. I'm gonna go early and help set up, and I will be there all day. I'm gonna wear a different shirt for setting up and then change because I would not want to ruin my nice knitwear. It is usually very strongly air conditioned in that building, so I don't think I'll have a problem. But let me show you what I've made. I have been working on a Feldspar tee by Hannah of Herb Garden Knitwear. It's very hard for me to say that H sound at the beginning of a word that is normally pronounced herb garden where I live, but I'm pretty sure she pronounces it herb garden. Anyway, Hannah of Herb Garden Knitwear does some great tees, and I have tested for her before, but I've had this tee in my Ravelry queue for, I don't know, since she released the first version of it. I ended up, however, when I swatched for this, meeting Gage on her second version. So the first version was released as a free pattern in a booklet of Quick and Easy Summer Knits, I think. It was some kind of booklet. The second version was when the pattern reverted back to her and she reworked it, expanded the size range, added new yarn recommendations, and gave you a guide of how to knit it at your own gauge. So if you read through the new version of the pattern, at the end, it tells you how to go about calculating it if you want to knit at whatever gauge you get with your perfect yarn, which I think is an awesome value. So it is just a basic drop shoulder tee. It is knit from the bottom up. There's no ribbing in this tee at all. So if you want to do a top that has no ribbing in it whatsoever, highly recommend, because it just goes right into the patterning. You've got these Purl ridge stripes going on. And I did the 3 needle bind off last night on both shoulders, and it is a boat neck. Now, I went with what the pattern said for the opening of the collar. However, we already talked about how I have a narrower opening here and a much shorter upper bust to shoulder measurement. If this boat neck hangs too wide on me, I will go in and seam it up just a little bit more on each side until the opening looks good on me. And I feel like boat necks are pretty adjustable in that way, because you can just do a nice little invisible seam and put it right where you want it. So if you want it in more to be bra friendly for your favorite bra, do it. If you want it more open, you would obviously have to bind off more stitches in the middle and do less on the 3 needle bind off. But I feel like this is already a very generous opening and it goes pretty wide on me. We're gonna see how it hangs after blocking. However, I'm thinking it's gonna get an inch on each side sewn in. So we'll see. But I am to the point where I need to bind off the first sleeve. Don't go away, stitches, come back. I have them on a fixed 16-inch circular and I don't have any needle stoppers on there right now, so they're trying to run away. Because you bind off loosely, purl-wise, to get the same finish you have in all the other sections, I'm going to bind off with 1 needle size up from what I did the sleeves on. So I did the whole body on US size 6 needles. That gave me a gauge of 19 stitches to 4 inches, 19 stitches and 30 rows to 4 inches. So my row gauge and my stitch gauge were spot on for her second version of the pattern. There is a slightly tighter stitch gauge for the original version, I believe is 20 or 21 stitches to every 4 inches. I don't remember the rows, but my gauge was bang on, and I have steam blocked from about here down. I don't remember what's in frame. From the last ridge down has been steam blocked and gauge double checked on that, because when I was knitting it in the car, it seemed so short but wide. But when I put it on to try it on tubing and I steam blocked it and like I don't know, pressed it out, like gently pressed it out to how it would be really blocking it, and remeasured till I had like, this is my row gauge, this is what I know it's supposed to be, and then I checked my width it was actually pretty close to what I anticipated, or what I wanted. I think it's going to depend. I'm going to do a full wet block, and it's really just going to have to be smushed into place, because I feel like if I accidentally smushed it widthwise, it would get short, but I really need to smush it lengthwise because that's the way the gauge actually worked. Does that make sense, or am I just spouting nonsense? Hopefully all of that made sense to you. You're going, yeah, okay. So anyway, bind off the sleeve, pick up and do the next sleeve. I did this whole sleeve last night while my husband and our kids are at camp this week, so that's fun. We watched Deadpool 2 on DVD last night because, you know, we can. It's been a fun week because we've just watched movies every night. First night they were gone, we watched Deadpool. Second night we went and saw Twisters. Third night, Deadpool 2. I don't know what tonight's gonna be. It could be, we've been meaning to watch John Wick 4. So all the movies that we would never have on while they were here and awake, and then by the time they go to bed, we're too tired to actually start a movie. John Wick 4 is long. That might have to be a two-parter. Anyway, you don't care about that. You care about the Feldspar tee. So the yarn, let's talk about the yarn, because I told you I bought it at the Fiber Festival and I really want to have it to wear. The yarn is Nitty Gritty Fiber Arts, and he was so nice to chat with and such a fun dyer. I mean, his colors are beautiful. This coral color happening here with the lighter splashes in it was something that I didn't already have in my wardrobe, but definitely falls in my color palette. The cooler toned corals and things actually work really well for me as a light summer. This one may be a hair on the warm side, but it's got the bits of cooler pink leaning coral in it, and then just splashes of that warm, almost yellow in there, that creamy bits. I love how it knit up, by the way, but I loved the texture of this. Like I said, it's 50% merino, 50% bamboo. I was looking for something that either had linen or bamboo or some kind of summery plant-based fiber for this top. Like, I specifically wanted that. The top is meant to have a bit of weight to it so that it hangs correctly on the body. So I was afraid a fluffier merino yarn would not hang properly, and I want to be able to wear it in the summertime. I know I won't be able to wear it outside when it's over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, but I feel like it is a cute enough top that with nice pants, it is office appropriate, and my office is fairly casual. Like, I will wear this to my office and probably just throw a linen shirt or something over it. But I don't know. What do you think? I'm loving the colorway. I don't feel like any of the pooling bothers me. I did alternate skeins as I integrated. So I did one skein until it was very close to running out, and then I alternated skeins until I did run out of the first one, and then kept going with the second, and then did the same thing again with the third. I have 4 skeins of this yarn. However, I still have this much of the third skein, and just holding it, I feel like it's enough to do the second sleeve. The sleeves are very short. So I don't think I'm going to break into the 4th skein. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that 4th skein. I've already got it skeined, already got it balled up. I wound all of these before our road trip. I did, I feel like this went quickly mainly because I cast it on our road trip and I worked on it for 2 of our longest car days, solid. Like, just nothing else in the car but this top. And I got basically almost, I think I was like 5 or 6 rounds from splitting for sleeves, basically, at the end of the road trip. So it was just a few more rounds of plain stockinette, and then I split for sleeves. So really, as far as working time goes, I worked for 2 days on this. Then a little bit of a third day while I was home. I left it here while I went to a conference. And then I've been working on it again since I've been home. So another, 4 days? So it really flew by. Highly recommend it. Like I said, it is the Feldspar tee. And you have gauge options and you have instructions from Hannah in there on how to adjust it. It has instructions on how and where to adjust the length if you feel like you want to add length to it. It is meant to be semi-cropped. It's just overall a really good pattern, and I have really been enjoying it, and I would love to be able to wear it Friday. So hoping to get it finished. If I don't get it finished, I'm going to wash this tank tonight so that it is ready if I end up needing to wear this instead. Let's see. What should we look at next? I have 3 more whips that I want to talk about. I will try and be quick because I feel like this is already getting long, and then just a couple of acquisitions. So we'll be brief. But when I went away to my conference, I went by myself, and it is the first time that I have gone anywhere for an extended period of time by myself in quite a while. So it was really nice. I missed my kids and my husband, but it was also nice to just completely focus on the conference I was at and the materials being presented, and just to take some quiet time and some space, because sometimes you just need to. Since I was doing that, and I missed my husband's birthday because it was during that week, I decided to only take things to knit for him. He doesn't know that. It is definitely surprises, but on the whole flight there and back, and a lot of my sitting around time not in class, I worked on a Matthew pullover. This is a pattern by Aimee Sher. Before I left home, I took 2 sweaters from my husband's closet. One was on the thinner side and one was on the thicker side. I wanted to compare the measurements of his more finely knit sweaters to some of his thicker, bulkier sweaters. And I wrote down all the measurements, everything from torso length, like to underarm, neck opening, length of sleeve from underarm, lengths of cuffs, everything that I could think of to measure from those sweaters. And what I did was then I took the instructions on adjusting fit for men from Rebecca Clow's Stick Season sweater, which I also plan to knit for him at some point. I took that advice and I used it to come up with my own instructions for the Matthew sweater. So I have purchased that pattern, and I fully intended to knit it for him. But I needed to adjust the torso length, the ease, the sleeve length, all of those things to make sure that it fit him properly. So I am knitting the bottom of this is another bottom-up construction. I seem to be doing a lot of bottom-up construction recently. I am knitting it to 17 inches of length in the body. And right now I am between 13 and 14 inches of length in the body. It is Nutiden held with Filcolana Tilia. So the Tilia is in the colorway Tapenade. So it's this goldy brown color. And then the Nutiden is in this like heathered, darker yellow. Up close, there's black fibers in with the yellow and the cream. And so together, they are making this beautiful gold fabric, which I think will look really great on him. He has darker hair, tans much more rapidly than I do, slightly darker complexion. So, I mean, he's still a pale person. He's just darker than me, but everybody's darker than me. So, I think it'll look really nice with his dark hair and with his hazel eyes and everything. Anyway, it's an endless sea of stockinette. I get that. The other thing I noticed when I measured all of his sweaters is how much the ribbing came in at the bottom of his sweaters as compared to the actual chest measurement. So because of that, he has a 29-inch waist, or wears 29-inch pants. So he's a skinny mini and very tall. So all of his sweaters across the bottom hem only measured, trying to remember now, 17 inches across or something. I made all these notes. Anyway, when I calculated it out, I cast on for the first size of the Matthew pullover, and then after I finished the 3 inches of ribbing, over the course of the next, I don't know, 6 rounds, I increased up to the second size of the Matthew pullover. So I'm making the second size, and I will have to adjust the armhole depth, and obviously I will have to adjust the sleeve length, but I believe from having read through the pattern that I can just add a repeat or two, depending on how much more length I need, to the cable pattern that happens at the top of this, because it's kind of a Gansey style sweater that has like a moss stitch and cable panel at the top. So I can just add a repeat or two. I've measured the amount of distance I need there to be in the yoke of the sweater, and so I can just keep steam blocking it and measuring it until I get to the depth I need. So I think this drop shoulder construction is very helpful for making a garment for the first time for somebody else that you're not sure on the fit. Much easier, I think, than trying to start with a raglan or something. So that's why I'm starting with this one. I do have yarn that I plan to make him a stick season or a single malt. I think the stick season, but the yarn would work for either. But anyway, this is going to be a Matthew pullover. Now that I'm back home, I only want to work on it when he's not around. So the goal is just to have it ready for Christmas. The goal was not to hand this to him for his birthday because it's so out of season here, but really just to get it started and get the bulk of it done. It's Nutiden, so there's still vegetable matter in there. Get as much of the body as I could done while I was gone. And as soon as I get to that sleeve split, we'll be to the much more interesting part of the yoke. And then, of course, Sleeve Island will happen. I'm hopeful that I calculated out that I will have enough of the Nutiden. Let's cross our fingers. And obviously of the Tilia, but I could always order more Tilia. The Nutiden, I would be SOL. I'd be having to ask people if they had extras again. But I'm hopeful. And like I said, I'm going to give this a block and see where I'm really at torso lengthwise, because that 17 inches from underarm is the finished post-blocking measurement I need. So even though I gauge swatched for this, what I have found with Nutiden is that the more of it there is, the more my gauge will change. Also, I went down an extra needle size for the ribbing at the bottom because my Nutiden ribbing is notoriously loosey-goosey and messy, and I wanted it to look neat, and it's still got some thick, thin spots. I am not the best at ribbing in Nutiden, but I try. And, you know, it's supposed to look like a rustic Gansey style sweater, so we're just gonna go with that rustic vibe. So that is the Matthew Pullover by Aimee Sher, knit in Nutiden and Filcolana Tilia. And I really hope he likes it, because it's going to be a decent amount of work. And this will be the first sweater that I have ever made him. Next up, we have kind of a long time on the needles project, just because I'm only working on it when I need something small and portable and completely mindless. And this is a Leith hat. The pattern is by Ysolda Teague. I love the shape and construction of this hat. It's one of those triple folded brim hats. So you start one way, work, reverse directions, work the other way. I know there's a number of hats like that. Gosh, I hope I'm up in frame. Come back. I feel like maybe I've been holding some things too low, but we'll see. We'll see in editing. I'm gonna lose that stitch marker again. Okay. Oh, fibers in the nose. Anyway, it will end up a triple folded brim, so I can't make it do it right now. It wants to roll too much. So this part will fold, and then it will fold again. I am, I don't know, an inch or two, I think, from needing to start the crown shaping. If I was to knit on this continuously, this pattern actually knits up really quickly. I made one for Christmas last year. I made like a men's size. This is the adult small / child's large size, and it is a superwash wool, so it is gonna grow. I don't know if we're going to keep this one or put it in the gifting pile. My kids have both commented on how they like the yarn. It is gorgeous and it is super soft. So we'll see once I get it done and blocked. And thought I heard a car. Anyway, it'll be a gorgeous hat when it's done. The yarn is Threads by Megan Nicole. I think I said the wrong thing in my last podcast, but it's like one of her rainbow sprinkles yarns. And I think that's knit on size 6 needles, but I'd have to get a needle gauge out to check it because those needles do not have the sizes printed on them. We have a gravel driveway, so usually I can hear cars coming in. Maybe somebody was just turning around. It was too hot for hot coffee, so iced coffee is the thing today. Okay, the other thing that I took with me on my trip was some socks that you may have seen in a different iteration a while back. So these socks were DRK bear paw socks, but I had tried to go to an in-between size by going down a couple of stitches, not realizing I needed to go down 4 stitches to make the pattern work out right. Anyway, it was a mess. And so I was putting off doing them because I didn't want to do the math to make the Flegel heel and gusset and everything come out right. I was just like, I was over it. So what I actually did, even though they were knit toe up, is I pulled the toe off, re-picked up the stitches. No, it's not the neatest. Yes, if you pull it apart, you can see where the knitting changes directions. No, I don't care because they're socks. Took the yarn from the toe and knit it into a cuff and I had the same number of stitches on here as the Thicksgiving socks by Summerlee. So I just then did the rest of her pattern, heel flap and gusset, and now I am working on the foot, getting close to where I'll need to start the toe. These are obviously kind of big socks. They are for my husband. I've been trying to make him a pair of socks out of this yarn for at least a couple of years now. I tried doing it single in the DRK everyday socks, and it was coming out too big. I think her gauge for socks is much tighter than mine, even on the same needles. I know Summerlee's is, so her pattern calls for size 4 needles. These are size 3 needles. I'm fine with that. So my husband really likes his socks to be fitted. So my struggle with hand knit socks for him has been trying to, he's got a very long foot, but it's not a very thick foot. Like, I don't know how to explain that. It's long and thin. So I can't just follow like the size based on his shoe size, because he wears a 10.5. So I'm usually, if I'm looking at a sock pattern, it wants me to knit the large, but then it's too big around. So really I need to knit the medium, but go to the lengths for his shoe size. Anyway, so he wants negative ease in his socks, and I am really trying to give him that. And I really think that my ring's gonna catch if I do that hand. I really think that I have achieved that here. I think that he's going to have the negative ease he wants, even at his ankles, which are fairly thin, and across his foot. So now I just need to make sure that I get the foot length right, such that it's not like squishing his toes in, but also no extra fabric bunching up at the end. I was actually hoping to bang out an entire pair of these during my classes at the conference, but as you can see, that did not happen. This is the only one so far. It was so cold in some of those classes that my hands would not function. In other classes, I was legitimately taking notes and not knitting, or they were discussion based, or I mean, there was all kinds of things. Like, it really was a great conference. And so I didn't have any evenings where I just sat around in my hotel room and knit. There was always stuff going on. So I did not get as far as I wanted, but it's an easy carry around project for times when he's not around. It'll be a great Carline project for once school starts again, and hopefully between carrying it around and sitting in Carline and stuff like that, I can have him also a pair of socks. Whether I give those to him in the fall or at Christmas time, I have not decided. I'm using Forest Lane Fiber Co. It's one of the no nylon sock bases held double, but it's reinforced with tencel. So it's wool and tencel, and the cuff and eventually the toe are going to be in this Reggia 4-ply design line, variegated, held double also, and I don't know, socks. Those are the Thicksgiving socks by Summerlee. Hopefully this iteration of these socks actually makes it to his feet. All right, we have made it through the works in progress. Yay, cheers to us. And really, if you're still here, cheers to you, because I know this has been a long one, because summertime is so hard for me to get time to myself to podcast. And the other times that the kids have been occupied, I have also either been gone or had other things happening to where I could not film. So I'm happy to be doing it. Let's talk about the yarn I bought on the road trip. I bought 2 garment quantities, and they were both in summer fibers. The first quantity I bought was at a knitting store in Las Vegas. We did stop for one night in Las Vegas, and we hit a knitting store on the way out of town. It was the first time I've been in a knitting store that had more summer fibers in it than wools. Like almost and I get it because Las Vegas is hot. But it was a lot of choices, and it was so hard to narrow it down. So they didn't have anything local for me to look at really, because they had not yet started setting up for their big anniversary sale the following weekend, which is when they said they'd have a ton of local hand-dyed stuff. But I did get this Queensland Collection Myrtle. It calls itself Sustainable and Compostable Vegan Silk. It is actually eucalyptus fiber. So it says 100% lyocell eucalyptus. It is 100 grams is 180 yards or 165 meters. It says that it is a worsted weight yarn. It's this really pretty purple, and I got 4 skeins of it. So I know it says it's worsted. I know the Tolsta tank says it's DK. However, it looks fairly thin for a worsted to me. So I'm gonna swatch, and my hope is that this will work for a Tolsta tank, because I think this purple would be gorgeous. And this time I would do the cami version, the V-neck version. Slightly thicker straps probably than her original, and maybe not quite as deep a V, because once again, short distance here. So I need to read through that particular pattern and see if I can adjust it to fit me well. But I think this would be gorgeous under linen shirts, under a lightweight sweater. I just think this purple is really pretty, and I think it would look good on me. I've said a lot. I'm so sorry. I had not seen this particular Queensland Collection yarn before, but I have since seen a few more places carrying it, and I love it. It like actually feels cold against my skin, and I think that's going to be excellent for my climate, because like when I put it against my neck, it doesn't give me any of the hot vibes. Like it actually feels cool, which is how I feel about the Knitpicks Shine. They have a sport and a worsted, but it feels cool against the skin. So I never feel hot wearing the top I've made out of Shine. I would like to work with that some more. And this feels very similar. So I am excited to try it. I really think it would make a great Tolsta. I'm hoping that the gauge swatch works out well for that. So that was the first yarn store that we stopped at. We only stopped at 2 yarn stores on this particular trip, so less than last year, which was good for my wallet. There's gonna be some crinkling, and I'm gonna apologize for it, because the next one is just in like a plastic grocery bag. Okay. I believe there's 7 of these, but I'm gonna put this bag down so that you don't have to listen to that crinkle. So I got 7 balls of the, I think it's LLH, Tivoli, which is 60% modal and 40% cotton. It's again, cool feeling on the skin, not hot feeling, has that kind of slick, cool feel to it. also like doesn't feel like it's going to be hard on my hands to work with. It has, how much yardage, dude? It is a 50-gram ball, and it has 130 meters per 50 grams. I have 7 of these, so I have 350 grams. So whatever that works out to in meters. And I haven't decided. Obviously some kind of summer top, because it is a cotton modal. I had a thought about what it should be the other day, and I should have written it down, because now it has escaped my head and flown away. But at one point I was like, oh, this is exactly what this should be. Oh, I contemplated doing the Tulip Gansey by Midori Hirose. She has instructions in that pattern. I've done it as a DK weight sweater already. She has instructions in that pattern how to do it in a super open gauge as a drapey, more like tank or vest. It has no sleeves, and it's the same cable pattern, but it's just a lot drapier. So I've been considering that. I also was considering doing her Sadawal tee, which I've done before at a worsted gauge, and it was before I really knew much about garment construction and yarn subbing and stuff like that. And I wear it because I love the color, but it's not the best fit. The worsted weight is hot for me, but also it's a short sleeve sweater. I don't know. I don't wear it super often, and I have thought about ripping it out. I still have the rest of that yarn, and I could make it into something that I would wear more often. However, I kind of love the top construction of that tee. It's done to where it looks kind of like macrame at the top. It's really neat. If you're not familiar with that pattern, look it up. Midori Hirose is the designer behind the ranunculus. If you are not familiar, I don't know why you wouldn't be. I feel like everybody's familiar with the ranunculus at this point. But if you're not, same designer. She has patterns that she shows in a wide variety of yarns so that you can see them, and you're getting the same stitches per inch, but she's showing it to you super open gauge as a lace weight all the way to super closed gauge, like this is really going to be a sweater, but the same pattern. And I just think that that's really interesting. And I think this could be a really pretty top for wearing to work and stuff. I like this super pale yellow. Hopefully it looks good on me. There is like a lovely pale yellow in my color fan, but I think it's a little more buttery, and this is a tiny bit more lemony, but I don't care. I am in the era of my life where I love yellow, and I didn't used to, and I think it was I was just looking at the wrong yellows. I love a good pale yellow these days. So I have 7 balls of this. Got to figure that out. It may not end up being this summer because, I mean, for me, summer knitting goes all the way to like October. However, Laura Penrose has said that she's going to be doing some test calls soon. And you know how I love her patterns. Like love, 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 love her patterns. So I'm just keeping my options open at this point. I still have a beautiful yarn I've picked up for her Midland cardigan at some point. No rush, Laura, if you're watching this, like no big. But I can't wait to see that. That's going to be beautiful. The more I look at her John Arbon sweater, the more I kind of want that as a tunic length sweater to wear with leggings. Super simple pattern on the front, and I think it's just beautiful, and drapes so lovely. So, you know, she's got that she's thinking about again. And then the color work yoke that she's got going right now, the Maxine. I love it. I love it so much. I did the Maxine hot water bottle cover and gave it to my sister-in-law for Christmas. And I really enjoyed that. And I would love to do the sweater, probably for myself. I'd kind of like to see it in pastels like the hot water bottle cover was, but I also have this cone of dark purple merino, and I could kind of see it with the main color being dark purple merino and then the patterning being lighter pops of color through the yoke. I don't know. Things to think about, things to swatch, things to look at. But those were my acquisitions. Fiber Christmas is on Friday. I am so excited about that. And who knows? If I say I'm not going to buy yarn, then I'll buy yarn. However, I think I'm going to focus more on spinning fiber because there's usually a ton of fiber at Fiber Christmas. I do have, it'll be a little crinkly, but I can get them out. I do have the 2 shipments of fiber from the Fiber Club that I've been doing that came while we were gone. She got behind, so a couple of shipments came really close together. But I don't even know that I've shown much of that Fiber Club on here at all. I did show the Lover colorway spun up. So let's see, hold on. Okay, so this is the Taylor Swift Fiber Club, which I mostly joined because my kids have decided that they are major Swifties. And they thought it was really fun, and I just wanted a fiber surprise every month for a little bit. The first 3 months I did a BFL bamboo silk, I think, blend. And then for the next 3 months, I switched to 100% Corriedale because I wanted some different fiber types. I think I'm going to go online and switch it again to something else. I think there's maybe a Targhee option. I don't know, something different. Anyway, this is Speak Now. So this is one of the ones that came while we were gone. I'm very excited about this colorway because these are colors that I love. I love purples, I love blues, I love pinks. I can't wait to see that spun up. I don't know what order I'm gonna spin any of this. And then this is the red colorway, also in 100% Corriedale. This one, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with. I think, ooh, now I have the hiccups. I think Speak Now would probably go with the other color vibes that I have going for my traveler shawl. So that one may get spun up sooner rather than later. I don't think the red would go with the other stuff I have going on for my traveler shawl. If you've been around for the last few episodes, you might remember that I spun up Lover and showed it, and I spun up a hot pink from a different fiber club and showed it, and had thought about applying them together because that hot pink does cross over. However, as some of you pointed out, I feel like the hot pink is going to overwhelm the lighter colors in that particular spin. So while I am at Fiber Christmas, I'm actually going to look for a coordinating bat in the lighter aqua colorway that is in the Lover single that I have. So I'm gonna take the bobbin with me, try to find something in that lighter aqua colorway that I could then ply with it, because I don't want to ply it back on itself. I don't want to chain ply it. I'm going for a 2-ply. I want the yardage from doing the combo spin. I think most of the yarns that I'm doing for my traveler are going to be combo spins in 2-ply. So that's just, I want to keep that consistent, and I really, to extend the yardage of those colorways, I'm really going to try to do all combo spins. So that is that. This is red. I'm ending it here. I'm wrapping it up. I'm going to be all done because I don't even know if I have time to edit right away. There is a little bit of housework that needs doing. Unpacking has been neglected for the last few days because I came back from my conference and immediately packed both of my children for camp and drove them to camp the next day. So I need to unpack all my junk. I need to do a little bit of housework. And now I have to pick up all this stuff from podcasting. I need to finish sewing on the buttons, and I need to do finished object photos without melting. So lots to do. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I really appreciate you joining me. I really appreciate every thumbs up, every subscribe, every comment. I would love to hear what you're working on. If you've done any summer knitting, if you've made a Tolsta tank, if you, whatever. Usually I recap my summer road trip, but I'm going to save that because there's just not time. It's just too long already. So without further ado, thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you next time.